By now we can all agree that 2014's Godzilla had an extensive amount of marketing. Snicker commercials, iPhone apps, a making of book, a comic, contests, trailers and TV spots, a score by Alexander Desplat, a Fiat commercial, and of course its director Gareth Edwards. Marketing a movie is difficult. On its own merits, a TV spot or trailer is meant to sell an audience on whether or not they should see a movie. And let's just say Godzilla 2014 had some interesting ways of marketing the film to its audience. For one thing, they showcased Bryan Cranston extensively in the marketing as if he was going to be facing off against Godzilla, which, by the way, almost sold me on the movie. At the same time, however, trailers tend to show too much of the plot in some ways. This could be something as simple as a line of dialogue, or certain shots in general. The creative team behind Godzilla 2014 even took certain shots in the trailers and modified them in the movie, so in a way people didn't entirely get what they paid for. Godzilla 2014's teaser trailer showed the Halo jump to the Ligeti music, and we saw a silhouette of Godzilla in the streets below. In the main trailer, he roared at the camera as the doors closed. In the actual film, he's grappling with the male Muto in both instances. In the trailers, these vistas of destruction were given a sense of mystery. In the movie, however, I have to point out, why build up Godzilla in this film with images of apocalyptic and disastrous devastation if your audience isn't going to be seeing that caused by Godzilla? It's cool seeing new monsters face off against him, but why give a movie a poster like this and the tagline, "The world ends, Godzilla begins," if you're not going to return him to his menacing and destructive roots? This was another problem I and many other people had with the movie. They felt lied to in the marketing. Of course, part of it also had to do with Gareth Edwards. Before I start, I have no disrespect towards Gareth Edwards, and as far as I can tell, he's a passionate filmmaker who loves his job and strives to do the best he can. His characters and stories need a lot of improvement, but he's obviously a passionate filmmaker, especially with quotes like this. I think that films like Godzilla are like the fantasy punishment for what we've done. The real punishment will happen if we keep going this route. Films like this remind us not to get too complacent, and that we should really try and fix some of these things that we've done before it's too late. With his side of the marketing, to me anyway, he came off as awkward and arrogant when read off on a computer screen. In regards to giving a lecture at the Beijing Film Academy, he said this: "If I was in the audience at film school looking at me now, I would hate me. I never could have predicted it this way." And as far as thoughts on a Godzilla 2 plot, with the exception of the 1954 original, I would say that my second favorite film is Destroy All Monsters. I just love the idea of a monster island. Having a world with these creatures in it, I find that fascinating and would like to treat that realistically. I wouldn't want to limit it to one other film. I think it's more fun to. This question will come back to haunt me if we ever do a sequel, but I think multiple creatures make better movies in the terms of the image of Gojira. The movie wasn't out by the time he said the latter quote, and I have to admit it sounds like he got a little ahead of himself. As far as Godzilla 2014, however, he said this: "Godzilla's an anti-hero. He started as the enemy and in the later films became the good guy. In our film, it's not black or white. I wanted people to be afraid and have that reaction. You wouldn't be cheering if he really turned up, and we tried to keep it that way." And he also said, "He's the punishment we deserve, you know?" What? However, many fans and naysayers alike have not pointed this out. Gareth Edwards may not have written the movie, but of course being the director means he's going to have a majority of the creative decisions. Be that as it may, there is one slight hint as to how Godzilla 2014 was really going to play out. Involving an interview at Toho Kingdom, Thomas Tull had this to say to the question: "So it becomes obvious in the film early on that Godzilla's a good guy. Was that something that was from the get-go, script-wise, or did it just morph into that?" Thomas Tull said this: "No, 100% from the beginning it was that he was to fight other monsters and I wanted to root for him. So that was a very conscious choice that we all love Godzilla. Especially when they throw it down, I want people to be able to cheer for that." Granted that when the movie came out, it eventually went on to gross $528 million in worldwide gross revenue and made its budget back in domestic box office. But one bit of marketing the studios had no control over almost cost it that mark: word of mouth. Many people became split down the middle with the film after its release, from the senseless arguments over Godzilla's lack of screen time to a blander-than-bread main protagonist. Some fans have even harassed and at times threatened fellow fans on websites like YouTube and Facebook. I can totally understand disappointment, but honestly, the Godzilla fandom does not need elitists. We've all come together for the same love and affinity for a giant radioactive dinosaur and his kaiju cohorts. We have the kaiju genre getting the mainstream recognition it finally deserves, and we have a new era of Godzilla films to enjoy. How many of the current generation would be able to say that? But as flawed as the marketing was, I have to admit it did work in some ways. For some, it meant a rebirth of the iconic Japanese monster in any form. For others, it was an entirely new generation being introduced to the character. The marketing may have been deceptive, but without it, Godzilla would have ceased to exist for a new generation. Toho even destroyed their pool where many Godzilla films were taking place. While this film is not the end-all be-all of everything Godzilla, it put him back on the map, and I could not be more happy with the results.